let's have a quick conversation about some of the coaching changes that just went down in the National Hockey League. So the Philadelphia Flyers have fired Alain Vigneault after 2+ seasons on the job. But the big news, or I should say maybe even bigger news coming out of Vancouver, with the Canucks firing head coach Travis Green and GM Jim Benning and hiring Bruce Boudreau. So let's focus on that in particular. What's your take on that whole Canucks situation? Because that team has been a disaster the last 2 seasons, and now they're finally cleaning out the front office and the coaching staff.
Yeah. Kind of like what I said, similar to what I said about the whole, the Bergevin firing. There's nothing that you can really say here. As far as Benning goes, he's given out some brutal contracts. He's made some terrible deals. Like, this was like a long time coming. Like, you see, the Canucks fans were raging about this guy for years. So it's a matter of time. And like, you always heard rumors that like he was liked by the ownership, or maybe even the ownership was kind of making decisions and he was taking the front of it. But either way, like, that change had to be done. And as far as like Travis Green, I mean, we all love Travis Green for the way he played, especially with the Buds. But I think he seems like a likable guy. Like, you often hear people say, oh, so-and-so is a player's coach. I see that in him big time. Like, number one, because he's a former player. Number two, just by his demeanor, the way he speaks, the way he addresses the media, he's the type of guy that I think would be fun to play for. And he's a guy who I think can succeed in the National Hockey League. But the current state of this team, the change had to be made. Like, they couldn't just keep going with Travis, like, on the skid they're on. But at the same time, it's tough, man. So, like, I'll throw it back to you with this. Like, based on the current lineup that the Vancouver Canucks have, like, what should their expectations be? No, like, I think we'd all agree they should be better than they currently are. But should they be fighting for a playoff spot? Should this team be a contender? Should this team, be one piece away from making like a big move and like entering being a contender? I don't know. Cause I think that the Canucks are a tough one. Cause like, they're one of those ones that's like, they're so close, but they're so far. Right. So if someone asked me that question, like, what are the expectations of the Canucks? And even compared to other teams, like, if you gave me the list, I think most of the teams would be pretty easy to point to, like, hey, based on this lineup, based on the culture there, this is what this team is trying to achieve. Vancouver, though, I don't know, man. Like, so for the next guy coming in, well, we know it's Boudreau. So for Boudreau coming in, like, I don't know what the expectations are for him in terms of results.
I think this team should absolutely be fighting for a playoff spot. And I even go back to last season, just based on their roster and the talent on this roster. Now, you could make the argument that there's some stupid contracts on this team, obviously, and it's not a perfectly constructed team by any means. Like, you look at the best teams in the league and how they allocate their salary cap. I don't think the Canucks are close to any of those teams, but just looking at the talent on this roster, like, are you kidding me? You go down the list here: Pedersen, JT Miller, Brock Besser, Quinn Hughes, Connor Garland, who's actually having a really solid season. This team should be better than it is. This team, over the last 2 seasons, Lepore, there's only 4 teams with a worse record over the last 2 seasons in terms of points percentage. Seattle, who's an expansion team this year, Arizona, Ottawa, and Buffalo. And then the Canucks are the 5th worst team over the last 2 seasons. There's no excuse. This team has too much talent.
To that point, you just said talent. Comparing them to those teams you listed, like, it's not even close. Like, Vancouver's the best team. Like, they have names. Like, we know their players. And no, you're totally right.
It's insane. And one guy I look to in particular, I know he's taken a lot of heat in the Vancouver market, is Elias Pettersson. I mean, there is no excuse for how poorly he's played. Lepore, he has 4 points at even strength.
Ouch.
4 points. He has 8 power play points.
Ouch.
Like, that's just inexcusable. And I know
center too, not good.
It got to the point where Travis Green was playing this guy, over the last couple of weeks. He's playing him like 13, 14 minutes a night. He took him off the top power play unit. Like, it was getting ugly. But when you're signing this guy in the offseason, he's getting the same bridge contract as all these other elite players, the 3-year, $7.5 million range, the same thing Matthew Tkachuk got, the same thing Braden Point got. He was viewed going back a couple of seasons ago as one of the best young centermen in the game.
100%.
He was on a superstar trajectory, Elias Pettersson. Like, they were like, oh my God, we stole this guy in the draft.
Yeah.
I think he went, 5th overall?
Oh yeah,
draft year?
That was the take. Like, he should have went 1st overall. This guy's gonna win Rookie of the Year. All of this, yeah. And it was quick too. It was like,
to see him fall off the cliff that he's fallen off of. I think a lot of it, and again, I don't want to put it all on Elias Pettersson, but when your number one center, when your best player is playing this poorly, it's going to be tough sledding. And obviously, this team just across the board when it comes to scoring goals, keeping the puck out of their net, it hasn't been pretty. And I'm hoping that bringing in Bruce Boudreau, a coach who's known to get a lot out of his players, specifically offensively. Like, I went back and I looked at where his teams have ranked offensively. It's pretty damn good. Like, I just went back through his, coaching Washington, Anaheim, and even Minnesota. You look at what Bruce Boudreau has done offensively. His teams have ranked 3rd, 1st, 8th, 1st, 2nd, twice 11th in the league offensively. So he's a guy that can come in there right away and he can get this team playing more aggressively and scoring goals. Now, I don't know how that's going to translate on the defensive side of the puck.
Yeah.
But I think Bruce Boudreau can help turn things around. And obviously they have to bring in a new general manager and sort out the entire front office. But I'm hoping that these changes actually result in a bounce back performance from the Canucks the rest of the season.
Yeah. Come on, Vancouver. Vancouver in the West, man. Calgary's doing well. Edmonton's doing well. If we had Vancouver over there doing well, I mean, I guess the Jets, dude. The Jets are a good team. It'd be great. You guys are just lagging behind, man. Come on, Vancouver. We want to see it.
Yeah, it would be nice to see the Canucks get back to the play that we saw a couple of years ago in the bubble where they made it to the second round of the playoffs. But this team, they're just so much better, I think, at least than their record indicates. And I know they say you are what your record is, but I just can't help but think what this team could actually be if they can get the most out of the talent on this roster.